My friend Hal Freeman is a retired professor and lives with his family in a small city south of St. Petersburg in Russia called Luga. While there, he started a blog called Between Two Worlds, where he chronicles his adventures and experiences as an American living in a small city in Russia. And this summer, the summer of 2018, Hal and his family returned to the States on vacation, and I had the opportunity to catch up with them and to conduct this interview with Hal. So I think you'll find it quite interesting. I hope you enjoy this episode from my interview with Hal Freeman.
Well, that's an interesting question. When we moved to Russia, we thought we were the only ones who would ever think about going there. We've discovered there are a number of families that either have moved or are thinking about it. I would say the first piece of advice I would give would be to expose yourself to the language as much as possible. Now, you may be like me. I had a job, I had a family, we had friends, church, and I didn't have time. I didn't have an opportunity to take Russian in class. I've never had a class of Russian, but there are a number of things online, from YouTube to Russian for free. If you plug that in, there are a lot of things online now that will at least expose you and get you started on the alphabet and some basic things. And some of them there's Babbel, there's Duolingo. There's a number of things now with the internet that will help you at least be familiar with the Russian, how it sounds, what the letters, the Cyrillic alphabet. The more you can do, the better. If you have access to a tutor, that's great. But any way that you can expose yourself to the language, the more, the better. How much does it take? I don't know. Russians won't expect you to be fluent. The thing is, Russians will help you. And especially if they see that you are trying to learn that language. When I speak Russian to them, they're, oh, this is great. I mean, they don't expect that. And so the more you can do, the better as far as the language goes. I suggest reading a little bit of history. That's always good. I love it, but I don't think it's essential, but it is important. I would say the next thing is to decide where you want to move in Russia, and by that I mean the options are basically you can live in a big city or a small town like we live in, or maybe a rural agricultural area, depending on your family situation. There are advantages to moving to the city, such as Moscow or St. Petersburg. I live there. One is the jobs. Jobs are more available, especially teaching jobs. There are numerous advantages to teaching. Now, they are not usually very high-paying jobs. That's the problem. Also, so you have to think about that. You have other companies you can work with, however. You just have to research it, find out from people there. But there are certainly more jobs available. There will be more Americans and other English speakers present in a place like St. Petersburg, or certainly Moscow, or a number of other large cities in Russia. The downside to living in the city is it's more expensive. I checked the rental rates, and basically I had a gentleman I know, American, who lives in St. Petersburg, gave him some figures, what we paid for things in our little town of Luga, and it was about 3 times to maybe 4 times in some instances on some products, more expensive, especially housing, in a place like St. Petersburg and certainly Moscow. So there are advantages there, more Americans, more English speakers, more jobs available, but the cost. Small town, you obviously have fewer job opportunities. Although teaching is always a possibility. I mean, Russians want to study English. And you will find, if you are a native speaker, even if you don't speak any Russian, but you get enough to put up your sign on the local billboard or they have these information boards, and you put native speaker of English, you will find some students. And so there are opportunities in small towns. And there are some jobs like information technology jobs, any kind of technical skills. You can do those anywhere. The other thing about teaching is I know some in Russia teach online. They teach people all over the country. With Skype and other means of communication, of course, now, it's very easy, and some people can support themselves. I mean, I know people looking to teach students in China English while they're living in Russia. So it's a different age now, it's a different era in terms of communication. So, but you want to think about that. If you're into growing your own food, that is a big emphasis in Russia right now. There is, and if you're not a citizen, it complicates it, yes. But you want to seek out avenues where you can raise your own food. You can grow your own things, and that, of course, cuts down on your expenses. But there is Russia is trying to recruit people to come to farm the land, and so especially the big-time farmers. So you want to think about those general questions. I would also suggest, I am on Facebook, as many people are, there is a group called Moving to Russia. And if you go there on Facebook, you will find it, and there's a Moving to Russia secret group, because some people aren't comfortable sharing personal things in an open group. They prefer the closed group. And so you have these. I belong to the group. There are people who live in Moscow who belong to it, in St. Petersburg, Americans, and other English speakers. There are those like me who live in small town. We're there for people to ask. There are a lot of people interested in moving to Russia. I didn't know that. There are a lot of Americans interested in moving to Russia. And so you'll find others who have some of the very same questions you do. And they will I see them actually share information with each other. They live in one part of America, a different state, different place, but you'll see them. And they ask us, and there's just a number of people. Some people on there are Russian, and they've lived in Russia all their life. They can help with some of the technical questions that people like I would not be able to answer. And so I would highly suggest, if you're on Facebook, go to Moving to Russia. It is definitely the majority of the people there are Orthodox in their faith. And but there's a group out of Veliki Rostov. As I said, I've met some people in St. Petersburg, Moscow, different places in Russia who are already there. That way you can ask specific questions about the things that are specific to you that will help you make your decision. And I think the more you know of the language, the better. Kind of decide which general direction you're looking at. Are you more into big city or small town or a more agrarian setting? And definitely the Moving to Russia, you're going to find people who will serve as a source for you in all of those places. And I would highly recommend it. And a visit, it's expensive, but a visit to Russia, if you've never been there, visiting the country helps immensely, because you actually go there, you see for yourself, and you can look at different places. So if you can do that, I also highly recommend coming over to Russia. And you'll, if you meet us on Facebook, you'll get to meet us in person, perhaps in Russia.
Hi again. Hope you enjoyed this episode from my interview with Hal Freeman. Please subscribe below to get notified when new episodes become available, which happens every week. And if you would, please leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of this video. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.